Sports for Real with Coach Hall. You know, in this life, every single living thing has a beginning point and an end point. And for us humans, we celebrate our beginnings by having these birthday celebrations. Such was the case with me yesterday as I tried to celebrate, but, it wasn't quite like I thought it should be because I was under the weather. I had just said earlier that if having food allergies is the worst that I had to deal with at my age, hey, I'll take it all day long. But as I was suffering through my little day yesterday, I found out that O.J. Simpson had passed. Some kid come up to me and asked me, well, you know who O.J. Simpson is? Yeah, I know who O.J. is. What about him? Oh, he died. What? So I went and looked it up, and sure enough, O.J. passed. They say he had cancer. That's the first I heard that he had some kind of illness. But he's of that age now, and it seems like everybody is passing from cancer. And that has to do with the food supply. But, it doesn't surprise me at all. But at the same time, it brought back reflections that I have of O.J. Simpson's. Yes, everybody knows about the trial. Everybody knows about the chase, all of that. But it goes much farther than that with me. When I first noticed O.J. Simpson, he was doing the football broadcast in the early 80s, and he had, you see him on TV commercial for Hertz running through the airport. That's your earliest memories of O.J. Simpson. But I heard from Dad about how good of a running back he was. So me, anything I get interested in, I go and do some research. And sure enough, I started digging into O.J. Simpson. And well, actually, let me go back a little bit. I already knew about O.J. Simpson as a football player because I was heavy into NFL films at the time. I was watching those since I was about 7 or 8. And of course, they had those videos of O.J. And you talk about certain players like Bubba Smith. Say he knocked Bubba Smith out one time. Bubba Smith didn't like that. If you know who that is, that's that big defensive lineman. He played a lot of years with the Baltimore Colts. Not the Indianapolis Colts, the Baltimore Colts. I know you youngsters don't know anything about the Baltimore Colts. But they would show these films, and the one thing that stuck out to me concerning O.J. was the year that he ran for 2,000 yards. That was the 1973 season. Now let me put this in perspective for you. In 1973, NFL, they only played 14 games. It wasn't the wide open brand of football that you have right now. Most teams were run oriented, which means defenses knew that you were going to get the football. So for O.J. to get 2,000 yards in one season, when everybody knew he was going to get the football, is remarkable. Quite different from today. Yes, it still would be remarkable for a back to get 2,000 yards in the season, but not at the same level of what O.J. did. First of all, now you have 3 extra games. And everybody is not heavily dependent on the run like they used to be. They're trying to get rid of the running back in some ways, but it's just like the fullback. You can't do it. It's an integral part of the game, and as things go in cycles, you're going to see the running back and the fullback come back more into vogue as people start reverting back to power football. For instance, look at the Baltimore Ravens. They got a new offensive coordinator starting last year, but before that, the offense they were running, after all my years of watching high school football, that was a high school offense the Ravens were running. They double tighten and fullback, and they sticking it up in that hole. That was offensive that you see in high school. And they got away with that and were effective at it because everybody else, they want to run some version of the spread and throw the ball around. But if you can run the football effectively, you change things. And that's what the Ravens have done with their style of play. But again, the fact that O.J. got those 2,000 yards in a 14-game season with everybody knowing he was going to get the football and everybody stacking those lines trying to prevent him from getting that 2,000 yards, and he still got it, hey, this man was great. So you had to know that he ended up making the Hall of Fame. And it's not just the NFL Hall of Fame. He also went into the College Hall of Fame. And he was a great running back for the University of Southern California. He had a couple of big runs against UCLA when UCLA was a pretty good program. And he didn't win a championship. But those Rose Bowls that they won, hey, he was dynamic. But moving forward, like I say, a lot of people, when they think O.J., it's the lasting memories. He went to trial, got acquitted, and then went to civil trial and lost that. We thought it was broke. Well, come to find out, he had his money set up in a trust fund that the victim's family of the double murder he was accused of, they couldn't touch that. So it's my understanding he was getting $30,000 a month, and they couldn't touch it. But now that he's gone, the lawyers have come out and said they're going to try to go after that money. But if he had set it up right, which looks like he did by having that money come like that, his beneficiary is going to get that trust control, and I don't see how the Goldman family is going to get any of that money. So just it's a wait and see kind of thing. But also, they change laws so much that they do it to try to benefit somebody, just to strike back at somebody else. But if you think that if that's the case, then you would have thought that they would have come up with something by now to get at OJ's money. So for that sake, I'm saying that they will get their hands on that money. But he did go to jail later on for trying to get back his stuff. Now that I know that he was getting $30,000 a month, I wouldn't have been worried about that stuff. I would have sent somebody else to go get it. But because he was in on it, that was their chance to get back at him and send him to jail, and that's what they did. So he got out of jail, and he'd been living a quiet life for the most part. We don't know what he's up to, but at $30,000 a month, he was straight, as far as I'm concerned. But I just want to make a few comments. Back during that trial, I was at Tallahassee FAMU, and I was taking a communications law class. And the day that they gave the verdict, I had a presentation on some kind of form of communication law. It fit right into what was going on at the time because of the circumstances of the case. And then when it was announced that he was acquitted, it was a split right down the line in the country. All the black folks was ecstatic that he got acquitted, while the white folks, they didn't like it very much. They didn't think it was okay for somebody with dark skin to get away with being accused of murdering somebody with white skin. Not just one, but two of them. But it was more for the black folks, not necessarily OJ. It's the fact that we got some kind of justice in the court system. Historically, then and now, and for the foreseeable future, the odds of brown-skinned folks getting justice in the court system is not very good. So the cheering that the black folks were doing at that time was mainly because somebody black had beat the system. Even though he lost the civil trial, they were still ecstatic. But one note about OJ. OJ is kind of like Bill Cosby in a sense. Once he made it, he kind of got away from his own people and moved to the other side. His whole world was all based on the people on the other side, the white folks. That's what he was dealing with, as the ones put him on. So he took all this stuff and moved on over there with them. They crossed him in the end, which normally what happens, and the same thing happened with Bill Cosby. I recall a situation that I read about that Bill Cosby, he was in the same hotel room with James Brown, and he sent some kind of watermelon and fried chicken joke / gimmick down to James Brown. James Brown got hot. He was about to go see him, but his staff prevented him from going up to Bill Cosby and doing something to him. So it would be ironic if James Brown could have seen how Bill Cosby fell from grace. But just like OJ, Bill Cosby, a lot of those guys, they turned their back on where they came from. So having said all of that, my remembrance of OJ is based on his football accomplishments and what I saw him on TV. As far as his personal life, I could care less about that. I've seen these guys in college when I was there, and they have these attitudes like, the world owes them something. And if you are on a football team in college, a lot of people are throwing themselves at you because they feel like you may eventually have something that they can use. So if I buddy up to you now, maybe it'll pay off later. Now, they weren't getting NIL money like they do now, but they did have a bunch of groupies. And in a lot of guys' case, that is like money. and that leads them down a certain path. But I've seen guys that play well on the field, they have terrible attitudes. Not really somebody that you really want to know. So after I got my eyes open to that situation, I don't really want to know these people. You know, you might have some nice music or you play good football, but beyond that, I don't really want to have nothing to do with them. And because I'm not playing pro sports, it probably won't have nothing to do with me, which is fine. I'm okay with that. But yeah, these guys have some terrible attitudes. Not everybody. Not calling out, you know, I'm just talking about young fellas when they be playing college. I don't have much experience being around young fellas who were in the pros, but those college guys, they have some nasty attitudes, man. So OJ, he took his success, rose on through the NFL, through the broadcasting business, and then he had brought him up to the trial. He acquitted. He had some rough times later, but going back to when they were talking about the split between the country, black and white, now that he's gone, people are speaking out on him. But I'll leave you with this. Bruce Jenner has come out and said that good riddance that OJ is gone. But how about this? In the eyes of the Lord, who's going to be most favored? OJ Simpson or Bruce Jenner? Caitlin. Sports for real.